Blog Talk Radio.
This is Heart to Heart Talk Radio, part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. I am your host, Daniel Scranton. For the next hour or so, please listen with your heart. Hello, everyone. This is Daniel Scranton, and this is Heart to Heart Talk Radio, part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. And I'm very, very pleased and excited to be bringing Jonathan and Andi Goldman to the show today. And I have a bit of a personal history in my own work with Jonathan, and that is that he has produced a song, or you could call it a track, I guess, which is a guided chakra toning meditation. And I started doing that with my voice coach back in 2012, I think it was, and we would do it as like a warm-up for our lessons. And it just led me down a path of sound that I totally didn't expect, but we can talk more about that later. It's just a real pleasure and an honor for me because of my own history and because I know of the importance of Jonathan and Andi's work. So that is my intro for them, and now I'm going to put them on live. So welcome. You should be unmuted now. Hello.
Hi, Daniel. It's
Hello.
Andi.
It's Andi,
Hello.
and this is Jonathan.
Yeah.
Happy to be here, Daniel.
So, Andi, why don't you begin by talking about how we got here? Because I want to know where here is. Daniel, don't you?
We'll let Daniel start the show, honey.
Well, on this planet and in this place we call Earth. Oh my goodness gracious! It is lovely to be talking to you and to your audience, heart to heart.
Yeah.
I like the name of the show, Daniel, Heart to Heart, because that really is what we're about, is really healing from the heart.
Yes. I love that story that you said about your vocal coach using...
There's more to the story, and I thought I would wait until I had you on to tell the whole story. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm a direct voice channeler. And I've been channeling for 4 years, and about 2 months after I started channeling, and I came back from this, one of these life-altering cruises that I've been on, several of them in my life. And I came back and I started to channel the words sing and ring over and over and over. So I would be wanting to connect with my guides, who they call themselves the creators. And in the time that it would take for me to make that connection, I would just be sitting there repeating the words sing and ring, sing and ring, sing and ring, or ring and sing, or ringing and singing, some combination of those two. And so eventually I said, I need to go take voice lessons or something. I need to start singing. And I did. And my teacher, Kimberly Harrison, had a studio in Santa Monica, and she called it Singing for Your Soul. And I thought, how perfect is that? And so after like a year of our lessons, she was like, oh, I know this chakra toning meditation that we can do as a warm-up from Jonathan Goldman. And we would sit across from each other on the floor and get really loud doing the 3 tones for each chakra. And it was so great, and it totally lit me up. And at the same time, I was listening to some recordings from Wendy Kennedy, the great channeler Wendy Kennedy, who channels the Pleiadians. For the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and the Hathors, they're all about sound. And I was learning all this stuff about sound and the power of sound, and I just got so interested. And I said to Kimberly, I want to learn how to do overtones and do throat singing. And she was like, great, I would love to teach you that, but I don't know how to do it myself. And so, so it was not very long after that conversation I started channeling overtones, and they just started coming through me, just like the singing and ringing was coming through me. They started to come through me, and now it's become a part of my work. So every time I go into the channeling state, I do 3 really long tones, and so that's the full story there. Which I'm sure you can relate to some of that.
I think indeed. Well, that's just really, really marvelous. Here's a really quick story, just which you will maybe appreciate. You're talking about the Pleiadians and the Hathors and all that stuff. Yeah, and I work with Andi and I know them all. They come to visit from time to time, and they're very, very reverential and respectful, and we really appreciate their essence of being. And there was a time in 1992 when my first book, Healing Sounds, The Power of Harmonics, came out. And you may have read it, you may not have, but considering your interest in overtone singing, I think I would highly recommend it just as a totally objective source, because it's probably the best book that's written not only on sound healing, but also the subject of overtones and harmonics, whether it's the deep voice or the Nouveau European style that a lot of people work with. But regardless of that, I was down in Santa Fe, and I was teaching a Healing Sounds workshop, and somebody walked in and handed me, just a chapter from a book. And the book, well, first of all, I read this information. I thought, my goodness gracious, this is all about how humans are learning to, sing and tone and to project harmonics in order to change the vibrational rate of the planet and to be frequency keepers. And I came back to Boston, and I said, there's this book I really Boulder, that's okay. I know which planet I'm on, although I don't necessarily know which city I'm in. And I walked into our local bookstore, and I said, I really want this book. And it was a book called Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, which is, guided teachings from the Pleiades. And the woman says, that's one of our most popular books. I said, well, it's really interesting because either the Pleiadians really like my work, or Barbara Marciniak has come and visited me, at which point all copies of the book flew across the bookstore. And one behind the counter, her mouth dropped open, and I said, well, okay. So there we have that one. It's one of those strange stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a true story.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that, the story of I walked into the bookstore and the book literally fell off the shelf and hit me, and and it turned out to be this life-altering book. But not all books flying across I've never heard that one before, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I did help her clean up too, because it was just Bringers of the Dawn were all on one side, and I guess it was the top-selling book at the time, so I helped pick them up, being a little baffled about it, because Daniel, when these types of things happen, I at least really wonder if I'm still in a dreamtime state, and that's okay. And did you ever wonder if you're in a dreamtime state?
Oh my goodness, all the time. But there is that anchor of reality that actually working with sound can bring that anchor into reality, at least for me and for our teachings.
So, yes. So here we are for you, Daniel, and for your listening audience. What can we do to supply you with information, sharing, knowledge, or whatever you want to do for the next hour?
Yeah, I'm just really excited about talking about sound. It's just, one of the things I heard about sound from a number of different channels was that it was used to create the pyramids, because everyone's been trying to figure out how do they move these enormous rocks without the machinery that we have today. And I've heard very detailed explanation of how sound can be used to move matter. And then I was watching the show Ancient Aliens, and so it's even gotten that mainstream that it's, people on television are talking about how sound was used to create the pyramids and may have been used in conjunction with the Ark of the Covenant to make the walls of Jericho fall and things like that. And so if you want to talk at all about...
In the beginning was the Word.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
The Word.
Well, and Daniel, what's coming to my mind is a wonderful quote that was actually from the New York Times science section way back in 1988. And the quote is, "Sound shaped into dazzling tool can make, break, or rearrange molecular structure and levitate objects."
Andi, would you repeat that again? Daniel, listen to these words. In 1988, so a lot of the folks who are channeling this information, this is back in 1988 that the New York Times wrote that sound
shaped into dazzling tool can make, break, or rearrange molecular structure and levitate objects. And when you were talking about the pyramids, that quote came to my mind because certainly sound is such a powerful, powerful modality, and we are just now beginning to learn, really more about it in our current culture. And certainly the quote from the science section of the New York Times is pretty indicative of our culture wanting to unveil and unravel these mysteries, such as, wait a minute, how did those pyramids get built?
That did not come from UFO Daily, one of those things. That's what I like about it, the Times. But, make, break, or rearrange molecular structure, well, we are basically talking about changing our DNA. Right? Or going down to a cellular, a molecular, a subatomic level working with sound. So this is, we love the fact that it's the New York Times. Andi and I are working on a new book now, and we're really hoping that it brings sound into mainstream because we're talking about using self-created sound, and we're not only talking about using self-created sound to do all these things that Andi's going to tell you about in just a moment, but this information comes from what it's called peer-reviewed or really well-respected scientific and medical journals. Now, as I mentioned, we have contact with all sorts of really different, interesting beings from other dimensions, other galaxies, etc. I don't talk about them that much because that's easy to talk about. But to talk about the hard physical science of how sound can heal, that's what gets the mainstream into basically believing you and thinking that this is real. That's what gets the mainstream, and that's how you shift the totality of consciousness is bringing it into the mainstream as opposed to just keeping it to a small amount of people. Andi, you think so?
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Could you talk for just a moment about some of the physical aspects?
Well, Jonathan, before I do that, what I want to do is mention to Daniel and our listeners that, as Jonathan just mentioned, we're currently working on a book on sound using our own self-created sounds for healing, and something as simple as a hum. And, Daniel, right now, if your audience and you and I and Jonathan just even wanted to, for a moment, begin to just hum. And so it's so wonderful to use our own voice in a healing way, and something as simple as humming can really in that moment there was a a reduction of our stress levels. I don't know if you could feel that, Daniel, but I actually could. I felt like my stress level went down, but more importantly, on a physiological level, what happened in that brief moment is that there was more oxygen that filled up our cells. In that moment of using our own voice in a self-created healing sound, our blood pressure and our heart rate was lowered. And this is a very interesting piece, but there's been research that has said that levels of melatonin are increased. Using our own voice increases the hormone melatonin. And of course, we all know that melatonin is, generally connected with our sleep, our cycles of sleep, our cycles with time. Melatonin is a pretty important hormone. And I read not too long ago that they are beginning to use melatonin as an antidepressant. And I really thought that was fascinating because as we work with our own self-created sounds, we actually begin to feel better. And even just in this brief moment of humming, and I know that you've had the experience, Daniel, with the overtoning that you've done and the sounds that you've created, but we do begin to feel better. And I think a large part is related to the increased levels of melatonin, the stress-related hormones, which are reduced.
It's interesting when you're talking before about making sounds with your vocal teacher. That actually is from that's an exercise that Andi and I have from a book that actually is an award-winning book called Chakra Frequencies, and it's simply to sit across from another person and basically sound the vowel sounds together. It's an extraordinary experience that really unifies you.
Exactly. It was the perfect thing to start a voice lesson with. And wow, I mean, I could just feel such a difference. And I always feel such a difference. And we do have the recording too. My wife has it on her iPhone. Sometimes we play it in the car and do, tone along with the track, and it's wonderful. But I always feel so much better when I do that exercise. And I've actually taught, when I first moved to Ojai, California, we would have people over to the house and do that exercise together. As like 6 of us would tone together, and it's so powerful. I just love it.
Well, also, Daniel, what I want to mention, too, is that when we do use our own voice for self-created healing sounds, oxytocin, the hormone oxytocin is released, and that is known as the trust hormone. So interesting that, you're with a group of people, whether it's another person or whether it's 6 other people or 100 other people, and you start toning and sounding together, and you do feel this deep level of connection and trust. And once again, that's the oxytocin that is being released just through our own voices.
Yeah. There's another story that my voice coach told me about you, Jonathan, and the Crystal Caves. I think it must be in Mexico, right?
Yeah, that was actually in Palenque, and the fact that we were under the ground, and the guide turned off his lights and said to me, because he knew what I was involved in, make sound here, and I made some vocal harmonics, and the room became illuminated. And that is called sonoluminescence, S-O-N-O, luminescence, sonoluminescence. Now, check this out. When you lift something with sound, that's called acoustic levitation. Here we are giving you the technical terms. Don't you love it? All right, listen, what I really want to do, because I know that you're into harmonics, and you can't really, on the telephone, make harmonics real well. And I have a recording that I'd love for you to play called The Merkaba of Sound. But before we do, I want to spend 2 minutes just talking about something called the divine name. And this was a discovery that I made probably about 20 years ago where I woke up from a dream and I was told to sound the vowel sounds of the chakras going from the crown to the root and then back up to the crown. And there was just this extraordinary explosion of connection with the divine, as well as it sounding like this ancient name of the divine that Moses was said to have been given, as well as it being a universal sound. So I actually wrote this award-winning book called The Divine Name, and I happen to have just 1 minute of intoning the divine name. Now, I couldn't do it now because the sounds going over the, if you like, into a microphone would cause distortion, but I'll be able to play this for us, and we'll just be able to listen to it for 1 minute. Close your eyes. You'll hear the harmonics, but I'm not specifically generating the harmonics. They're coming out as a result of the vowel sounds that I'm creating. So just close your eyes and think that this might be perhaps a universal divine sound of God.
Wow.
And one more time. So I don't know if you or your listeners have ever heard that one before, but I thought I'd like to share that with you.
I heard so many similarities in that sound to the toning I do when I bring forth the Creator. Yeah, and I don't even have a very well-trained ear when it comes to music, but I can hear the similarities. It's really cool. Yeah.
So that was the divine name. And what I did in this actually is my latest recording, and it won the Visionary Award for the Best Frequency Sound Healing Album of the Year. And it's now being considered for the Grammys, so let's see what happens there in the New Age Music category. So if there are any people who are voters in the Grammy, well, go for it. But this one is myself intoning the divine name, along with Lama Tashi, who himself was nominated for a Grammy about 8 years ago, and he was at the time the chief chant master of the Drepung Losing Monastery, and he's doing this very deep sound while I'm doing the Om above it.
And, talking about this particular recording called the Merkaba of Sound,
right.
We thought it would be helpful for Jonathan to play that excerpt with just the divine name that you just heard, because that is one of the layers that is in the Merkaba of Sound.
And everything in the Merkaba of Sound, from my sounding to Lama Tashi, and the relationship is in a ratio that's called phi, P-H-I. Perhaps you've heard of that? The phi ratio, which basically defines the spiraling of the nautilus, the spiraling of our ear, the spiraling of galaxies. It's a universal ratio, if you like. So I guess rather than say anything more, I'll just say that a lot of people listen to this, and we're only going to listen to about 2 minutes of it.
Well, and I just want to jump in and just mention that the word Merkaba is actually, in the Hebrew language at any rate, is capable of creating an interdimensional wheel that, one might jump on to travel interdimensionally. And of course, Merkaba also is usually translated meaning a chariot, a vehicle to carry one into another dimension.
Sure, and it's also found in the ancient Egyptian traditions. I think we're going to find out at some point that there's more of a relationship between the ancient Hebrew tradition and the ancient Egyptian tradition than we saw in the Cecil B. DeMille version of the Ten Commandments, but that's a whole other story.
But it is, the ability to travel interdimensionally, whatever the particular tradition is.
And a lot of people perceive of Merkaba also as being a star tetrahedron. And what's interesting is that the shape that the Om makes, particularly the deep voice Om of Lama Tasha, creates that. So, Daniel, if you can cue it up, let's give a listen to it and have our listeners travel with us.
Here we go.
The Merkaba of sound.
I stopped it because were you hearing that too? Some distortion?
Well, there's so many levels. I actually was not hearing it, and there are so many. That's okay. If you heard distortion, there are so many levels of sound there that may have been coming through. It may not have been, but that's okay. Were you able to hear Lama Tashi's deep voice chant? The
yeah,
and the other stuff. Well, I'm going to honor that we didn't hear it, but then again,
I thought I was getting technical difficulties, but it sounded like there was when you're on the phone and you can't really hear. So maybe it's just on my end because we're not connecting through the same channels here, but I'm sorry. Maybe I should have just kept it playing.
You may have been hearing something on your end, Daniel, and it's interesting because with Jonathan's
I am on the telephone. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Because we are, have the sophisticated equipment and microphones and so forth in our studio, so we were probably hearing it a little bit differently.
Maybe not, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do now, which is just for the heck of it, I have Merkaba sound. It's going to be coming out only mono here, but I want to honor it because by gosh and by golly, I'll just bring it up for the last minute, but just so because I really feel that the work that Andi and I do is sacred, and it's like we were just doing a book signing or a CD signing, and I actually refuse to sign over the actual cover because our covers have sacred images, and I think it's sort of, from my perspective, incorrect to be, writing over them. So anyway, with this Merkaba sound, I can't really tell you what is going on.
Well,
but a lot of people just really travel. Now, if you're beginning to hear distortion, I could understand that. But let's see.
Let's just try and see with our equipment.
Because a lot of people just really travel to really deep, deep places. Okay.
How did that sound on your end, Daniel? Was that a little bit better?
Yeah, we've had so many technical difficulties lately with the Blog Talk site, and calls getting dropped, people not being able to get to the show through the link, and so I just thought, oh no, this is one of those Blog Talk moments, and I didn't want to, give people the version of your beautiful music that wasn't, in its pure and amazing form. So,
well, I'm really glad that.
No worries.
That was, what I'll do is I'll play whatever we had planned from here, and mind you, it's still coming out mono, and it's still coming out through the phone lines, but it on another level somehow usually seems to work okay. It's not the same as the stereo listening in this extraordinary sound, but hey, what the heck, Well,
and I mean, I think it makes a little bit of a difference too, Daniel, because Jonathan and I are down in our studio, and so, we have that capability of putting the sounds out over the telephone, the airwaves, with a little bit different equipment. So, and we're happy to do that.
And let's talk about this. Let's use this as an opportunity because, for instance, that the voice is the most powerful instrument. So when it comes to sound healing, wouldn't you say that even an instrument like a flute or something, in some ways is a limitation where the sound that can be created through the human vehicle has the most power?
Not going to argue that at all, my friend, but I am going to take it to one step further, okay? Which really involves a book that Andi and I are working on now because we, once again, want to reach as many people as possible. And I love the fact that you've taken vocal lessons. And I love the fact that you can do harmonics. And I love the fact that you can do all sorts of amazing things with your voice. No question about that. But I think it's really, really important for anyone who's listening, and actually anyone who's out there, whether they're listening or not, to realize that they can use their voice as a healing instrument, whether it's a trained vehicle or not, simply, for example, through the act of humming. As Andi was talking about before, you get the release of things like nitric oxide, oxytocin, melatonin, all these things just on a physiological level. Then when you, if you like, you encode the sound with the intention of whatever you want, it becomes such a powerful vehicle. That, I think, is, what you're getting to, the fact that the voice is the most powerful vehicle for healing simply because it's the one that's the easiest for us to project our intention, our feeling, whatever. It doesn't have to go through an instrument. It comes directly from us as an instrument. And many, many years ago, Andy's going to tell you a story about me.
Oh, I would love to, of course. I know many stories about Jonathan after being together for 20 years now. But back in the 80s, I know the story that he'd like for me to tell, and this is it. Back in the 80s, when Jonathan was becoming really delving deeply into the field of sound healing, he came up and developed a formula that is frequency plus intent equal healing. So frequency being the sound, and then the intention that we are actually carrying within our thoughts, that consciousness, those thoughts that are riding on that wave, that carrier wave of the sound. That intention is such a powerful component in working with sound as a healing modality, and certainly working with our own voices as a healing modality. So frequency plus intent equals healing. I think it's one of the most important formulas, period, in the entire field of sound.
Or maybe in the world. I keep thinking that it may be the grand unified theory of frequency, meaning the vibrations or the physical vibrations, because once again, our ancient physicists and our ancient mystics and our modern physicists, our quantum physicists, are in agreement that everything is in a state of vibration. So that's dealing with one thing, and then at the same time we have the quantum area, which takes us into the fact that the observer effect, for example, how we perceive of something actually influences and affects, for example, how an electron moves, etc. So frequency plus intent. And for Andi and I, it's so important that everyone realizes that they can use sound for healing. And a lot of times for people, and Daniel, this comes from 30-plus years of our teaching, this work. Mm-hmm. And, we initially, a lot of people would think sound healing, music healing, well, I'm not a trained musician, I'm not a trained vocalist, this and that, and it created a real us and them mentality, a real delineation. And so now I'm trying to, working with Andi, incorporate more and more of anybody can do this. Now, I'm not saying that it's the same thing as getting up on a stage and singing Strangers in the Night or doing an overtone version of Amazing Grace, of which I have a very dear friend who can do that. I mean, that's very, very powerful work, but oftentimes it's performance art, and which can be very healing, but it's not the same thing as making sound that is healing for yourself, which may not necessarily be a real soothing, healing sound for anybody else. But what it can do for you, my friend, can be extraordinary.
I'm glad you reminded me of the intention part, because that would be something that when I would lead a toning group, we would go around and everyone would state their intention for, what they were toning for. And sometimes we would do an extension of the, going beyond the chakra toning and saying, okay, we're going to all tone for this intention for this person in a circle. And it was very powerful.
Oh, yeah. Well, I trust you know about World Sound Healing Day. And if you don't, I'm about to tell you and your audience, but once a year, Andi and myself and hundreds of thousands of other people will get together, and basically we will tone if you like, heartfelt sound for our planet, projecting the energy of light and love. If you like, projecting a sonic Valentine to the Gaia matrix, to the energy of the Earth Mother. And from our perspective, it is an extraordinarily powerful and frequency-shifting experience. So what you were going on in terms of, making sound for healing for people in a group, totally true. But I'm even going more for let's literally shift and change the vibratory field of our beloved planet so that we can all work in peace and love and harmony together. We call that global harmonization.
And global harmonization is something that everybody who wants to can participate in, and it is simply toning with the intention of sending love and healing to our planet. And as Jonathan was just mentioning, that every year on February 14th, Valentine's Day, Jonathan and I facilitate worldwide people gathering, not all at the same time. Certainly here in Boulder in the evening, Jonathan and I do a group and facilitate a large group, about, a couple hundred people, and we all get together and we tone the ah sound with that specific intention of healing Mother Earth. And so throughout the planet during that day, whatever time zone you might happen to be in, whatever particular community you might be involved with, people gather and they specifically set the intention of bringing together their group and toning for planetary peace. And coming up this year on February 14th is our 13th year to be organizing and facilitating. So, Daniel, I hope that you'll do a group on Valentine's Day.
Right. We're putting you on the spot right now, my friend. But
it's my wedding anniversary. And
you're kidding.
It'll be my second wedding anniversary, and we'll be on Hawaii. And
congratulations.
We're in Hawaii because
we're actually moving. We're moving to the Big Island. In about November 8th is when we leave. So we're moving to the Big Island. We're going to get some of that volcanic energy over there. And yeah.
We got married in Hawaii. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your second anniversary to you and your wife, Daniel.
And you can, even if you're in a plane, flying high in the ionosphere or wherever planes fly with your family, just take 5 minutes, and you can even silently encode an if you get the energy of love, just feeling in your heart, and you get this, if you like, coherence between your heart and your brain, and then just you can literally whisper and nobody will hear you, and it'll still go out, and it'll resonate with all the other people. Literally, Daniel, we got people from, I would say, hundreds of countries that are doing events or just doing it by themselves. We also have a website, which is worldsoundhealingday.com. Now, for anybody who's listening, we haven't given out our website, but for anybody who's listening, our website is our main website, the master website, if you like. It's healingsounds.com. Healingsounds.com, and that'll give you a link to World Sound Healing Day, as well as a lot of the other. We run about 5 simultaneous websites for different global activities and for different things. For the Sound Healers Association, which is a world organization of people working with sound. Don't know if you're a member, but you should be, Daniel. But anyway, what I really want to do right this second is play an excerpt from Chakra Chants, which features my wife Andi playing harp, our dear beloved friend Sarah Benson, who is now, she's working in the angelic realm, so it's interesting that this is called Angelic Calling. And we used to call Sarah the Divine Mother of Sound Healing, because she was really my first main teacher and Andi's main teacher as well. And we're just going to put this on, and this is the Crown Center. And once again, this actual track is probably 8 or 9 minutes long. We're going to listen to about 2 minutes of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you might feel a little tingling at the top of your head. Are you ready, my friend?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love the harp.
Oh, me too.
It's so funny that it's associated with angels and heaven, because the sound is so amazing. It's just so life-altering to listen to harp music.
And Daniel, with this particular track, also hearing the harp, but also hearing the beautiful, beautiful angelic voice of our mentor and dear friend Sarah Benson, really just adds so much to that spiritual connection. I mean, I just felt my crown chakra opening up, and it's interesting because with Sarah's voice on this recording, it really just tuned me right into our beloved Divine Mother. And one of the most important things that Sarah taught both Jonathan and myself is that the true sound of healing is love. And that is, I think, the one most important, and particularly with your heart-to-heart radio, and I just love, it's, the true sound of healing is love, and for our listeners to even just hold on to that beautiful, beautiful saying would just be wonderful.
Right. That. Thank you, Andi, because that is. That's just such an important and lovely thing, and it's so interesting because I've met people who are very, very, shall we say, frequency based. They'll perhaps perceive that there is a frequency of love, but I don't get that. I get that that the energy of love is whatever frequency, whatever sound you want to make. And our sound is awful wonderful to make on the World Sound Healing Day, but really it's, I don't know if you've ever heard of Heart Math, but Heart Math is an organization. Yeah, Heart Math. And they're an organization that basically teaches people how to make heart-brain coherence, doing a certain type of breathing that we actually lead people on in World Sound Healing Day, and then we amplify this energy with the ah sound. But here's something interesting. You know that the brain puts out an electromagnetic field. Yes? Yeah, of course you do. And the heart also puts out an electromagnetic field. But when the heart and the brain are synchronized together, it's called being in coherence. The field that is being generated is anywhere between 500 and 5,000 times greater than normal. How about them apples?
Wow. So how would you recommend a person bring their mind or their brain and their heart into that type of harmony?
Well, actually, Daniel, the way in which that occurs is when we are in a state of appreciation and we are in a state of love and gratitude. And when we are feeling those deep feelings of appreciation, and, we call to mind that with which we are grateful. We call to mind the love that we hold in our heart and the love that we feel in our lives. And when we are in that state of deep appreciation and we are breathing this love and appreciation with every breath, that is when we are in that state of coherence. And then to amplify that state of coherence, then to sound forth and have our sounds carrying our intention of deep gratitude and appreciation. Wow, that is when that electromagnetic field of the heart just expands and expands, getting greater and greater, connecting with all the heart energy on our planet.
And, the question is, can our energy interface with the energy of what some people call Mother Earth, other people call the Gaia Matrix? It doesn't matter what you call it, but it's the field that is created by our beloved planet. And from our perspective, the answer definitely seems to be yes. And in fact, right around, before World Sound Healing Day, we make available a free, I think we call it something like an toning training or whatnot, just so that people are able to basically learn and feel really free and adept at making this sound. Because once again, as I was speaking to you, it's wonderful to be able to make a beautiful sound. There's nothing. I mean, that's fabulous. I'm a trained musician. I've been playing for probably more years than you've been on the planet. But that doesn't, mean that what is so important is really making the sound, whatever sound you're making, and it doesn't have to be an incredibly beautiful sound. But if you're making it with the energy of love, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I teach people how to channel now, and I take them through a series of steps and relaxation exercise, and then get them breathing and doing visualizations, and then I ask them on their next exhale, take a really deep breath in, and your next exhale, just make any sound at all. And some people wouldn't do it, and I had to get this this download to ask them, okay, then just sigh or just make a really loud breathing sound on your exhale just to get that energy flowing. And I think that, like you're saying, it's really important to just allow something to come through, and that gets energy moving and creates, opens gateways for more energy to come through, but it has to start with that first initial sound.
So, Daniel, every year, last week of July, we do something called the Healing Sounds Intensive. The Healing Sounds Intensive, and it's a 9-day training. It starts about 9 in the morning and ends about 9 at night, but we've got time for eating and relaxing and having fun. But it's 9 days of working with sacred sound for personal and planetary transformation and healing. I'm going to put this into your psyche that perhaps you and your wife will someday come from Hawaii to be part of this, because you would love it.
Well, it's a beautiful training that we offer. We're coming up now. This July will be our 20th Healing Sounds Intensive, and we have people that come from all over the planet that are interested in this beautiful sound healing training and studying with Jonathan Goldman. And so it's we do it here in Colorado every year
at a place called Loveland. Can you believe it? That's really the name of the city that this takes place in, Loveland.
It's at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado, and we usually have about 100 people who are called to take this training, and we do go from morning till night, and people are receiving Jonathan's teachings and my teachings, and it's they're
meeting old buddies from past lives,
right?
And from other planets and all that stuff. I have a good friend who's been actually one of the great. He's one of the great tone masters on the planet, but he was just voted the #1 marrying man in Minnesota, meaning that he is a minister. And years and years ago, when we first, he would, we have teaching assistants, if you like, and he would be there, and he still is. But he said, Jonathan, don't ever, think that people are coming here simply to get your teachings. You think that's why, and they think that's why, but really, they're here to hook up with an old soul group. And I have to tell you, Daniel, that is a fact.
Yeah. it's funny that you mentioned marriage, because that just reminded me that at our wedding we had no vows, we just toned. So,
that is fabulous.
Yeah, we stood in the woods of Big Sur facing each other and soul gazing, and then we each toned until we felt like we had, solidified this connection, and that was the entire ceremony.
Oh, that is just absolutely beautiful, Daniel. Oh my! That now this is all in the sound, and in the intention, and there you have it.
Totally, yeah. That's just so beautiful. That's just so beautiful. So we are beginning to draw to our end of being able to be with you. And I'm wondering if there's any quick last-minute questions or anything that we can, answer for you, or what, or we'll just also can easily end with statements that we always do. So whatever you like.
Okay. Well, you mentioned your website, healingsounds.com, which congratulations on getting that URL, and I just want to know if there's anything else that you guys have coming up that people can get involved in, like what's next for the Goldmans in your work that people can sign up for or somehow participate in.
Well, Daniel, we're constantly being invited to attend various places, but, we're getting a little older. And
living in Boulder.
Right, getting older, living in Boulder, and I haven't quite mastered the, technique of bilocation. So I would like to say that World Sound Healing Day is a day that everybody can take part in. The Healing Sounds Intensive, if you're drawn to either my voice, Andi's voice, or just the concept of being with 100 other like-minded people, creating fields of light and love through sound for nearly 10 days, and where the miraculous becomes almost the ordinary. That's how powerful it is.
But absolutely, and I would say, just to reiterate that World Sound Healing Day on February 14th, and once again, our website, healingsounds.com, has information on World Sound Healing Day, has information on our Healing Sounds Intensive, and other events that we do have coming up. I know myself, I just got back from England, from Glastonbury, where I was the sound oracle for a women's sacred site pilgrimage. Jonathan and I are going to be back in England, in London, teaching
teaching the divine name, yes, indeed.
At the Royal College of Music.
At the Royal College of Music. That's unbelievable, huh?
But that's in, I think, either September or October. We'll be in Virginia in April.
Are we at ARE then, or are we at Satchidananda's
that's
ashram?
Yogaville, Satchidananda's ashram. So we've got a lot of things going, but I think if people can just visit our website.
Yeah, I mean, and there's free downloads there that we have, and all sorts of really, it's an award-winning website because it's designed not just to sell you things, but to give you information and give you experiences that will shift and change your life. Because I am on this planet for that reason. That reason is to basically reawaken people to the sacred use of sound for healing and transformation. And I think Andi, she might be here for another reason, but part of it is to kind of push me along and make sure, all right, Jonathan, keep going.
Oh, we'll just keep going together, honey. But one of the things that we like to say sort of toward the end of our conversations is, a beautiful mantra, which is we heal ourselves and we heal the planet.
We heal the planet and we heal ourselves.
And we can do this through our sounds. So we heal ourselves, we heal the planet, we heal the planet, we heal ourselves.
And we have a choice. We can make a difference.
Beautiful.
I got nothing more to say. I'm done.
Yeah.
And Daniel, we've really enjoyed spending this time with you, and thank you very much for inviting us on your show this evening.
It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Okay, so what I'm going to do as we go off
Yeah.
I'm gonna play a little music for a minute, and then I'll fade it out, and I'll say blessings of light and love through sound to you all. This is from Holy Harmony, which features what are called the solfeggio frequencies, as well as an ancient sound of the Christ energy. So I'll fade that out in a minute or so, and we'll say goodbye, and thank you so very much.
Blessings of love and light through sound.
Okay. Well, this is Daniel Scranton for Heart to Heart Talk Radio, part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. And if you're still listening, Jonathan and Andi, thank you for the work that you do. I love you both. Thank you for coming on my show. And now I would like to let everyone else who's listening know about the other shows we have on the network. So tomorrow we have Soulfulpreneur Radio with Megan Krendelmeyer and Rachel Archelaus. That's at 12 noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night we have Victoria Vives with Earth, Sky, People Radio. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to the Enlightenment Evolution Network page on Facebook or the Enlightenment Evolution Network group on Facebook, because there's a page and a group, to see more about these shows and how to call in or connect via the internet. So those are tomorrow's shows. Wednesday we have Rob Gauthier with the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. That's at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. also. Then on Thursdays we have Philip Malika with Consciousness Evolution Hour, and that's also at 6 and 9 p.m. Pacific and Eastern. I'll just say it that way from now on. Then on Friday night, we have Kalina Angel with the Earth Experience, also at 6 and 9 p.m. And then on Saturday, we have a relatively new show. It's already, it hasn't aired. It has aired. I'm so sorry. Disclosure Now with the Pied Piper and co-host Texas Rebel. And that's on Saturdays at 6 and 9. I forgot I've been so starstruck with Jonathan and Andi Goldman on today that I forgot to tell you all that the views and opinions and everything else expressed on this show, Heart to Heart Talk Radio, are not a reflection on the Enlightenment Evolution Network and their opinions and views and so on. And also that today is October 27th, 2000. 14. And I have to think about that because I don't have it in front of me, but yes, I do believe that today is the 27th. Okay, so this Saturday, again, disclosure now, 6 or 9 p.m., all about ETs and government cover-ups and all that good stuff. And then Sundays, we have Karen Newman with About Oneness. That's at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then starting this Sunday, we'll have a new show, which is also about sound and vibration and all that good stuff with Neil Gar and Universal Soul. That one's called The Resonance Intention. And that show will also be at 6 and 9 p.m. So check them all out. Next week, my guest will be the legendary baseball guy, Doug White, and he and I will be talking about sports and emotions and psychology and his journey and our journey together, because Doug is like a brother to me. And so that's next week's show, and thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Once again, this is Daniel Scranton. My website is danielscranton.com. I have events going on all the time, including my live Q&As, which are once a week, and so much more on my website. So check my website out, too. And go to healingsounds.com for Jonathan Goldman and Andi Goldman's website. Thank you all for listening. I love you. Good night.